So we want to welcome you to this is the fourth event in the colloquia series that's for this academic year, Fleeing Genocide, Displacement, Exile, and the Refugee. And this is our last event for the fall semester. So we want to thank Kat Alves and Eliza Atik and Mira Murley as well, all from faculty members here at the college who wrote the grant to be able to have this program. I'm Beth Cunahan. I'm a faculty member in the English department, and I'm here to introduce Stefan Feller. And Stefan Feller, he is a police commissioner, Lieutenant General Stefan Feller. And he has been involved in international work for 17 years out of a distinguished police career spanning 40 years. He is currently the police advisor to the United Nations, in which capacity he oversees 14,000 police peacekeepers globally. He has a senior degree in public administration and is fluent in German, English, and French. He has held senior positions in police forces in various countries for 27 years. His work has brought him into places from A to Z, Afghanistan to Zimbabwe, and every place of conflict in between, including Bosnia and Herzegovina, Cyprus, and Somalia. You can follow his work on Twitter. It's the all in caps UNPOL. And we are very pleased to welcome Mr. Feller back to our campus for a third time today. He's previously presented for our Criminal Justice Speaker Series and the Social Justice Working Group. And we appreciate him taking the time to share his experience and knowledge with us. Mr. Feller has most recently been in South Sudan just this past month, visiting and inspecting the large refugee camps there. He will be talking to you today about the work of the United Nations protecting civilians in some of the most dangerous places in the world.
So how do I get back into the state of humility where I want to be? Hi, I'm Stefan. Or Stefan, if my German would still be okay. I don't know that. And it's good to see some of you maybe again. Others might be new, but here in this place here in this auditorium of the Kupferberg Memorial, for me it's a special thing, right? Because I'm coming from Germany. I'm 58 years old. In order to hide that, I'm still wearing jeans. Meaning that I was born 1958. Meaning at a time where in Germany we began to appreciate, to understand what had happened before the Holocaust. And it's affecting us until today. It's part of the German conscience until today. I would not necessarily exactly be qualified to talk about the younger generations because I haven't been living in Germany mostly for the last 17 years. I still come back from time to time, but that doesn't mean that I would really know what's going on really in the society other than what you can read on the internet as well. But the Holocaust essentially is a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. So my friend Jean, or Professor Dr. Jean Murley, whom you might know, she said, don't tell them too complicated things. Show them pictures, tell them stories, tell them personal stories. Okay, so my personal story perhaps, and I have just prepared a few slides, and I will explain what's on these slides later on. My personal story with regard to what I'm doing internationally was that in the 90s, that country, formerly known as Yugoslavia, broke into pieces. After Tito, not Titov, Titov is my boss, one of my bosses, Tito, died a few years ago before, then step by step, Yugoslavia eroded politically, and there was the conflict that broke the former Yugoslavia into pieces, those pieces that are known today. And I'm sure if there are enough people here in this room, then 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe even more might come from either Serbia or Bosnia-Herzegovina or Kosovo or Macedonia, or no, if there's any Greek in the room here, then I should not say Macedonia, but the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, Fyrom. And that's already part of why it's sometimes very interesting and complicated, or Albania, or Montenegro, or Croatia, for that matter, or Slovenia. All those were formerly Yugoslavia, and when then Srebrenica, which is a small enclave in Bosnia and Herzegovina, was that place in 1994 where a genocide happened. I was as shocked as many of my German colleagues as well, and some of my colleagues already then went into missions of the United Nations. I was following that, I was interested, but I had a family at that point in time with young children, and I wasn't really sure whether I should do that. And then shortly thereafter, the conflict broke out in Kosovo in 1998, and I sat in front of the TV and I couldn't believe it again, that again atrocities were happening. And for me as a German with that history, something never again is something that we all learn, and I have repeated it on many occasions in my career, and it was never again. It repeats itself always again. And so perhaps that's what then led me to that I wanted to do 1 year in Kosovo, and I never came back. That year was the worst, hardest, toughest, most interesting, most amazing that I ever had in my police career. Every day was another crisis, blood, sweat, and tears day. And when I came back after 1 year, I knew I wanted to do this again. So after a few months, I went back as a police commissioner to Kosovo. And I spent the next time there until 2004. So I was in Kosovo for 4 years. And then I went to the European Union in Brussels, where I became the head of the police unit in that organization. And we established what we name crisis management missions in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in the Palestine territories, in many places in Africa. After 4 years in headquarters, it was time for me to go back into the field, and I became the head of the police mission in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which we then brought to an end. And from there, I came to New York, and I'm doing that what we are doing here right now, which is what we name peacekeeping. So that's just me. And the Lieutenant General stands for I can read, I can write, I can use a fork and a knife without injuring myself, and I can do that 4 times in a row. So far that. And I'm not reading this out. This is just what we have written down for my highest boss, for Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General of the United Nations, for last year, where in a speech that he held, this is quoted from this speech, and you see that red part, people displaced by war approach 60 million, and global humanitarian needs for 2015 are close to 20 billion. So I just highlighted that part in other presentations from time to time. I'm highlighting something in the middle, like, for example, transnational forces of violent extremism and organized crime, depending on what I'm talking about. But today, I'm supposed to talk about this: fleeing genocide, displacement, exile, and the refugee. And I have to make a context and to put it into an umbrella of that what we do, what we name peace operations. I'll try to explain what peace operations are in a little while. I have pictures, but I didn't know until now what you so far have done in this colloquium, and so therefore I also have a little bit more than pictures. I have 3 areas there: legal, organizational, and pictures. And the legal is just simply, is genocide a crime? And I want to not present, I want to discuss, is genocide a crime? Some of you are criminal justice students, as I have been told. So I guess the answer is yes, right? Yeah, students. Sorry. I need water. It's dry. No, thank you. So let's assume yes. Genocide is considered to be one of the most serious crimes of concern to the international community as a whole. Overall, therefore, genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crime of aggression. If something is a crime, you need a criminal code in which it is enshrined to be a crime. So you could assume that in the Criminal Code of the United States, there is provision, a paragraph for genocide, right? There's for sure, I know it for sure, as a fact, a provision for that in the German Criminal Code. But the United Nations has 193 member states. So the question is, do all have genocide in their criminal code? And why would that be? Because a crime considered to be a crime in South Sudan must not necessarily be a crime in the United States. And it must not necessarily be defined the same way. And the punishment might not be the same. Let's not even talk about the Sharia law. So, is there anything one could say why genocide possibly would be universally considered to be a crime? Or crimes against humanity, or war crimes, or crime of aggression? So in this little discourse about the legality of genocide, we can first of all ask, where comes this term genocide from? Sorry, this is a little bit because I made it with Keynote on a Macintosh. I didn't check it, so when I translated it to PowerPoint, it got a little bit messy, but it's okay. So the term genocide was not known before 1944, so there is a historical context that makes it very special that I'm talking about genocide here, in this place here, because it was only the beginning of the documentation of what the Nazis did with the Holocaust that then led to that this term genocide was coined. And so one could ask, is genocide only something that happened since 1944? Because this term stems from there. Or is it something that we know throughout mankind's history? And yes, for sure. Again, this is, you will read it a little bit. You will also get a list of references where you can read it all. You click it through on the internet. It's easy. You can read everything. But it is a long story that people slaughter other people just because they are other people, and they consider them to be other people in other groups of whatever type, and then they do the worst and horrible things to them. And here is just a little list about that, including that even today in 2014, ISIS, ISIL, IS, or however, Daesh, however you would name them, have committed what some would name a genocide in Syria against Yazidis, Christians, and Shia Muslims. Or I spoke about Bosnia-Herzegovina. I have not spoken about Cambodia. Rwanda is another of these examples. Genocide is not something that only happened in 1944, and it is happening until today. And I also can assure you that there are situations where we fear a genocide could happen, where then we deploy in order to prevent it from happening. And I will show you places like these. So, essentially, if you then talk about that, you will even see that until today, there are people who would deny that the Holocaust happened, like some people in Iran did. Or if you go to Banja Luka in the Serbian part of Bosnia and Herzegovina, you will find a lot of people, including leading politicians there, who will deny that the War Crimes Tribunal of the United Nations has branded the Srebrenica massacre a genocide. They don't accept it. And so, depending on whom you're asking, you might be in diplomatic trouble. Who is from Turkey? Here. Anybody? If you ask Turkish politicians and you tell them that the mass killing of probably 2 million Armenians within the Ottoman Empire was a genocide, you would be in trouble because they will not accept that. So, how can we define it then? And in the term of genocide, you need to know that the definition of genocide comes from a United Nations convention that, in recognition of what happened in the Holocaust, was branded. And so there you will find a definition for genocide that is that is actual and still the updated definition until today. I spoke about that we have genocide as one of 4 most serious crimes. And so I want, before I'm coming to pictures and what I do, at least make it clear, yes, you have criminal code provisions penalizing genocide here in the United States. But there also have been long-standing discussions in the international community to which extent very, very serious crimes should not also lead to that there would be an international criminal court. Because before we had the International Criminal Court, which is located in The Hague, we had temporary courts that are in existence on certain situations, whether it was Cambodia, or whether it was the case of Yugoslavia, or it was the case of Rwanda and other cases, where on the basis of a United Nations resolution, a temporary court was proceeding in educating justice, for example, for allegations of war crimes. But these are temporary courts. And there is a permanent court in The Hague now, since 2002, the International Criminal Court, based on what is the so-called Rome Statute, which is where those member states of the United Nations who wanted to have an international court and wanted to have a situation or a legal environment where it would be universally considered to be a crime, where those member states said, we want to have this international criminal court. So not all member states of the United Nations have ratified or even signed the Rome Statute, of which the United States is one. Not the only one. Because this International Criminal Court can adjudicate justice if either a Security Council resolution mandates this International Criminal Court to deal with a case of genocide, a case of a crime against humanity, a case of war crimes, or a crime of aggression, or if one member state of this Rome Statute says, I can't do it myself, so please, I refer my case to the International Criminal Court. So there are states who have not signed up to the International Criminal Court because in that situation, guess what? They might face that their own actions might all of a sudden also be subject to a situation investigated by the International Criminal Court. So the development of international law for the most horrible of all crimes is a process in motion, very slow, and sometimes even walking backwards, because there are states in Africa who say the International Criminal Court is only dealing with us, so it's biased, it's the West against Africa, so I don't want to have this. So you have, for example, a president of the Republic of Sudan, Mr. Bashir, against whom the International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant, which would mean that if Mr. Bashir travels to another member state of the Rome Statute, that this state is obliged to arrest Mr. Bashir and to make sure that he has been brought to The Hague. Well, from time to time you will see him traveling, for example, just recently to South Africa. And you won't see him arrested. But you see member states of Africa, including South Africa, discussing to leave the system of international justice and to abandon the Rome Statute and not to accept the International Criminal Court any longer. Because what the International Criminal Court does is it makes sure that there is no impunity, even by heads of states, torturing their own population, killing their own population, giving a damn about their own population. So this is a very, very long process, but I wanted to say that you will find definitions, and I'm not going through, but whoever is interested to read it, you will find in the Rome Statute the definitions of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes, which is a very complicated provision, and then later on also the crime of aggression. That is the legal part that I felt before I'm talking about peace operations. I found it hopefully useful to talk about that. And if we look at the ICC just one last time, you will see there are countries with ongoing preliminary examinations: Afghanistan, Burundi, Colombia, Gabon, Guinea, Iraq/the United Kingdom, Nigeria, Palestine, and Ukraine, and situations under investigation, as is the legal term, what they say: Georgia, the Central African Republic, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, Libya, Kenya, Darfur/Sudan, Uganda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. That's the list of situations in which the International Criminal Court currently works, either in order to find out through preliminary examination if there is enough evidence for a grounded allegation that there could be one of these four crimes that could have happened there, or if the prosecutor then decides there is enough, he goes for an investigation of a situation, and then later on it will be an indictment. And so that's that list. And before I'm coming to that question, what has all this to do with United Nations peace operations, I just wanted to make a break and ask if anybody has questions with regard to the legal part. Because I love discussions, so whenever you want, interrupt me, okay? Specifically when we come to the pictures. But what has everything to do with my work? Because I'm not part of the International Criminal Court. So we say we go places others don't. And you could easily say, might be I have a slide on that, I don't know that exactly. But in almost all places in which I have police officers, one of these 4 crimes has happened, is currently happening, or be prevented from happening. That's the context. Because the adjudication of justice through whatever means, whether it's an international criminal court or anything else, is one thing to do. It happens when you have presidents, generals, whatever, 4-star generals or whoever, politicians, diplomats who have participated in committing crimes like these, have done that. But once they have done that, there is usually a country lying in the rubble, where the system of governance has broken down, where there is no peace to keep any longer, where there is no police, where there is no justice, or that police or justice that is there has been becoming part of the problem rather than the solution, and people suffer. And I'm very sure many of you here have references to situations where you're coming from or where friends of you are coming from where all this has happened. So the question then is, what are the United Nations doing with peace operations? That is what I said. Every of these crimes is leading to massive victimization of large parts of a population, to their displacement inside or outside of the respective country, to large numbers of threatened people seeking refuge, and it leads to migration. That's the context. That's the arch that I wanted to establish from Holocaust as a form of genocide, a situation of genocide, one of those 4 crimes, what that means for a country, and what that means for the people in that country. That's the arch. And what we then do, either helping that migration is not happening, or if migration is happening, taking care of those people and also making sure that countries like Italy, Greece, Germany, and whoever else being flooded with migrants do the right and not the wrong thing. So that's also part of what the United Nations system does. It's not what I do. But migration has many aspects, because migration, you have a right to flee. You have also a right to migrate. There are human rights that need to be adhered to and complied with by everybody here, because that's the United Nations. And I said, what we try, or what we deal with, is when people are displaced inside and outside, because what you in your theme have described is the refugee, or the displacement, meaning that somebody from South Sudan running away ends up in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The situations I deal with have very often to do with what we name IDPs, internally displaced persons. So they run away from one situation, end up in another part of the country in a refugee camp, or outside in a refugee camp. And then you want to get them back, right? I'll show you how difficult that is. This is, you don't have to look at the details, an annually updated chart by the Center for Peace Operations, ZIF in Germany, where they map where on this world any organization, whether the United Nations, whether the European Union, whether the African Union, or for that matter also NATO, engages internationally in a situation with what we call peace operations. You see, it's quite many. You might not have heard that because it's not very much in the news, but that's the reality, and you see that this reality at this moment in time, there were times where you would find in Central and South America peace operations of the United Nations. There were times where you would find more peace operations in Asia. And there are now times where many of these operations are in the Middle East, in the Near East, or predominantly in Africa, and there are reasons for that. But many international organizations engage there, of which the United Nations is the largest. We are by far the biggest organization. You have heard, and I come to that with very, very few slides, just simply with pictures. I have 14,000 on average police officers in currently 16 operations all over the world. But they are only part of something where also they work together with, at this moment in time, between 91,000 and 93,000 military peacekeepers. So the uniformed personnel in United Nations peace operations is more than 100,000. And together with civilians who work together there, we are 120,000 people who work in the most dangerous areas of this world, of which the police, again, is 14,000. Please.
What's the difference between the peacekeeping arm and your police personnel in these countries? What differences do they form?
People who have grown up with the traditional meaning of peacekeepers would say peacekeepers are military. No. We have military and police peacekeepers. We both are peacekeepers.
They just have different names.
No, we have also different functions.
Okay. Just ask.
And basically we have two functions. The system has developed because peacekeeping exists since 70 years. So the first operations were in the Democratic Republic of Congo in the early 60s with police officers. And mostly that was monitoring. It was monitoring of a situation where there was a ceasefire agreement and then a peace agreement, and then you would have parties that would like to comply with that peace agreement, and there would be international monitors. And some of these operations still exist today, like a United Nations mission in Kashmir. Those are monitoring missions. But this business has developed very much after the end of the Cold War in 1989. And what we today do is essentially, we do everything from protecting of civilians to assisting in the establishing of organizations of the state. So my police officers protect civilians. That's one function. And they do that together with military colleagues because some of those threats are military and some of these threats are police-type threats. And we do capacity building. So we help in the restoration of a system that then hopefully is better than the previous system because it should adhere to human rights, to principles of governance, to accountability, to democratic legitimization. I'm in international environment since 16, 17 years, but legitimization is still one of those where I stumble. So that is peacekeeping. And if you look at these this list here, you will see that that's just simply the European Union being affected by crisis situations that include situations of genocide or war crimes, where migrant flows are reaching the European Union, and some in the European Union have started to build fences. So you will find lots of fences in the eastern area. They don't work. Fences don't work. whether there nor between the United States and Mexico. They don't work. And walls don't work. Believe me, walls don't work. I'm coming from a country where there was a wall and fences mined for decades. They don't work. I can show you these nice pictures of tunnels in the Palestinian territories between the Gaza Strip and Egypt, where the Israelis have done a huge fence. I can show you the same on the Mexican border in a situation where they transport the drugs underground. Sometimes they use catapults for above ground. Walls and fences don't work. So migration is what is bothering, challenging the European Union, challenging massively because we don't want those, right? Okay, yeah, they suffer, right? But we don't want them. When the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, said we take in 1 million, she was criticized for that massively. It's our group conscience. Because when the Holocaust was happening and people fled, there were people in Switzerland, you can even watch the movie, who said the boat is full. And nobody wanted to take the Jews. That fled. People flee. And we don't forget our history, so we said we take 1 million. Others say we don't want them. So you have nationalism, populism on the rise. You have things breaking into pieces. So is that only a problem for Europe? Well, we have seen what happened here, right? So, and for sure, if I go, as I did with my friend Jean, I would go to Maine, I would, at the lake, I would meet Somalian refugees. Migrants. You have them here, you have them all over the world. Whether the United States is affected by it less, number-wise at this moment in time, yes. But I'm getting angry if, on the one hand, people are shocked when they see pictures that I see daily when I'm traveling, and they say, oh my God, these poor people. And when these people then come, then all of a sudden they are collectively branded as terrorists? Hell no. Hell no. Even on the camera. Not one bit. I ask all of you to make a decision. When it comes to your ideals, what you want to see in this world, as I told students in Banja Luka and in Sarajevo, this is your time where you define what you're doing in your entire life. You have two basic choices. You live your dreams or you become complicit. If you become complicit, shut up. Don't complain any longer. If you live your dreams, believe me, you can make your dreams happening. I never gave up my dreams. I'm 58 years. I'm still an idealist, and I am where I am. Nobody has told me that I'm talking bullshit or whatever else by saying I have ideals. This is a world where you want to care for this world and not only say others should care. Everybody does, and you can do it everywhere. You don't necessarily have to go with me to South Sudan. You can do it here as well. It's about upholding principles of humanity. So the refugee crisis is not for fence builders. And what is it? It's just, forgive me, it's just the beginning. So let's go on the website of the UNHCR, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. we have, in 2015, 65.3 million forcibly displaced. Refugees of those are 21 million. Stateless people, 10 million. And where the world's displaced people are being hosted, 12% in the Americas, 6% in Europe, 29% in Africa, 14% in Asia and Pacific, and in Middle East and North Africa, it's the vast majority, 39%. You have 53% of refugees come from either Somalia or Afghanistan or Syria. All publicly available. So just that's the context of what happens if we are talking about conflict. The new Secretary General is coming in, Ban Ki-moon, after 2 terms, each 5 years now, 10 years, comes to the end of his tenure, and the new one is Antonio Guterres, who is a Portuguese former prime minister, and he has been a human rights person being at the head of the UNHCR for 10 years. He says the human rights part of the work and conflict prevention is the most important thing that we can do. So conflict prevention is like prevention of crime. Police officers immediately adhere to that. Conflict prevention is important. But you will see that conflict prevention also requires a unity that this world currently doesn't have. I'm not in Syria with my police officers, nor my military counterpart, the military advisor, with his military peacekeepers, because the Security Council of the United Nations, with 5 permanent members who all can exercise their veto, don't get a unified stance on what they should do, and some block every solution. I cannot go with my police officers to Burundi, which is here, where there might be a genocide in the making. Seriously. Because the Security Council is divided. And nothing the Security Council gets through is enforceable, and the Burundians, this tiny little country here, they say no, and that's where we are. So the state of world affairs on the political level defines where I am and how meaningful my work is. All these blue states here in Africa, in all these blue states you will find police officers of the United Nations. Western Sahara, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Libya, Sudan, Somalia, South Sudan, the Central African Republic, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Those are the current major peace operations that we have in Africa. There is another one that is big, that is Haiti, where I have quite almost 2,000 police officers. But the major bulk, 75% of our police officers are working in Africa. I told you it's 14,000, the military is 91,000, and the numbers are growing. Currently they are going a little bit down because we have been successful in Cote d'Ivoire and in Liberia. So we step down there, and that means the numbers go a little bit down. That is only temporary. And we are individual police officers, so we are not a standing police organization of the United Nations. My police officers come from 90 different member states of the United Nations, 90 different police cultures, and we unify them with a blue beret. Here are all those who posed with me in Haiti on one of those occasions. And they come with all sorts of expertise, whether it's community-oriented policing or fighting organized crime. It doesn't matter. We, depending on what we need to do, we ask for specific expertise. It's always difficult to get that expertise. And almost 2/3 of my police officers are so-called from police units. Here you would name them a SWAT team or an emergency response unit, an ERU. They are heavily armed. They have tanks, they have machine guns, they have long-barreled weapons, and they come in a company size, protecting civilians. So military peacekeepers provide in Darfur area cover so that we are hopefully not attacked by militias, whilst our foreign police units go into the camps, patrol in the camps, or also protect our individual police officers who do community-oriented policing with short sleeves and no weapons. Just one example, there are many of these pictures that might come. And we have specialized teams depending on what we do. This one here, for example, we in Bosnia establishing a capacity for policing on waterways. This one is one of the most beautiful, wonderful. It's a specialized team on sexual and gender-based violence, SGBV, in Haiti. So the Norwegians and the Canadians have chipped in and have sent and continue to send specialized officers to Haiti into the mission there, dealing with aspects of sexual and gender-based violence, SGBV. What do you think, when was it that rape was constituted as a crime in the criminal code in Haiti? 2006. In Liberia, similar. So before that, rape wasn't a crime. So talking about domestic violence, where we are used to say, that's something to talk about, in societies like these, you need to change a society. You cannot just say, we do it. You try to change the mindset, which is very often work for generations. In Bosnia, we started in 1994, and the United Nations ended with their United Nations mission, the IPTF, in 2002, and then the European Union followed up on it with the European Union Police Mission, which then lasted for another 10 years. So from 1994 until 2012, there was an international police mission working in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The same in Kosovo. If you look at Afghanistan and what the international community and some do there, the same horizon. Whether it has changed the world or not, we don't know. Timor-Leste, we did it for 10 years, and we left behind a very capable police organization. Côte d'Ivoire, we will leave behind a more or less capable police organization next year. Liberia, the same. Haiti, we are at the beginning of changing because we did it for 10 years. So you change things on a societal level if you do that. Okay, so now it's time for pictures. Professor Herman paused when he heard that unmistakable thud. Another brain had imploded. Any questions so far?
Are you saying, did I understand correctly that all of your police officers are temporary? In all the special units you showed, all the SWAT, 100% of your, okay. Temporary. But with determined terms, or it's constantly coming and going?
It's constant coming and going. We are a virtual organization. You have no idea what that means. You have no idea what that means. I give you one smaller example, which is already big. In Kosovo, in 2000, I was challenged with establishing a police organization made up from 53 different nations, 4,500 international police officers, starting from scratch in a situation where the Serbian police had to leave the country, or that place, because some still say it's only a place, not a country, And no police, no justice was there. So 4,500 police officers were the law. We did everything. And these police officers, sometimes they rotate 9 months, sometimes they rotate after 12 months. And we have a foreign police unit turns over after 12 months. We have all female foreign police units from Bangladesh or from India, where women leave their families in Bangladesh and go for 1 year to Haiti. Watch that movie. I give you that movie if you want. A Journey of 1,000 Miles. It's wonderful. We helped Greta Gambir in doing this movie. And you can see a foreign police unit of 140 women from Bangladesh preparing for what they do, but we all rotate. People like me, who do that since 17 years, are an exemption to the rule, because neither do I want to go back to Germany, nor they want me back, because I'm kind of not compatible with that system any longer. Or they would say, well, 17 years you have been out, so what is it what you want right now? So, all right, no, I love what I do. But we are a virtual organization. We do not have any training academy. We rely on the training academies of member states. Foreign police units come with an equipment that we standardize, but it is provided by those member states. We have significant capacity. The United Nations is operating 700 aircrafts. We are quite good. And we are able at some point then also in the middle of the desert in Kidal in Mali, with external temperatures exceeding 120 Fahrenheit, where electronic equipment is melting. We establish bases there. But it takes time, and it's pretty rough. So let's look at it. It starts with the Security Council. This picture is just 3 weeks old. This picture down here, these are the police officers, the police commissioners of these peacekeeping operations, the police components in peacekeeping operations that are currently underway. So, Georges Pierre Monchot, Haiti. This guy is Côte d'Ivoire. She is Darfur. Yusuf is Mali. Christophe Buik is Somalia. That's South Sudan. That's Abyei. Do you know Abyei? Anybody heard of the box? Abyei? A disputed area between Sudan and South Sudan? Looking like a box. This is why we name it the box. We have 5,000 peacekeepers there, because neither Sudan nor South Sudan have established governance there. I have 25 police officers there only, because the South Sudanese and the Sudanese don't want us to have more there, so they don't give us visa for more. And these 25 try to help the population where there is no police, because neither Sudan nor South Sudan have been able to come to terms with, okay, what are we doing with Abyei? So the population there is sitting with crimes, but there is no justice and no police. There's United Nations. And we deal with that situation. But it starts in the Security Council, where these mandates would be given, where then policing is a part of it. If we don't have a Security Council resolution, we don't go. We can't. Even we could, in principle, go if a member state would want us, but usually they don't want us. They want to have it. So if there is unity in the Security Council, it's okay. And since 3 years now, we have managed to make it a habit that a select group of police commissioners is briefing once a year the Security Council about what we do, which challenges we have with protection of civilians, which challenges we have with living and working conditions, and much else. This is South Sudan, where then 1 week later, I went down and was looking at the situation. What is the situation in South Sudan? South Sudan is the youngest country of the world, getting independence in 2012. After decades of civil war and fighting for independence, they finally found a way to agree to split up between Sudan and South Sudan. Well, there are oil fields and other natural resources somewhere over the place, so it's not all easy. But they were proud members of the world community for the first time since 2012, until the 15th of December 2013, when hell broke loose in South Sudan, where members of the military, the South Sudanese People's Liberation Army, SPLA, of different tribes, Dinka and Nuer, got into a firefight, which just simply was that drop that made everything explode. And since then, we have a massive civil war in South Sudan. And the mission that we had there, that was meant to assist in capacity building, all of a sudden looked out of their windows in their compounds all over South Sudan, and they saw people fleeing from that violence, from atrocities I don't even want to mention here. Except we talk about murder, gang rape, and whatever you want to put in between, torture, mutilation, everything. So the population fleeing, 200,000 people, stood in front of our gates and said, help us. So the mission took the decision to open the gates. That was in 2013. And we have camps with 200,000 people all over in South Sudan on our premises, with people who have fled, whom we have on our compounds now. So there are hospitals there by NGOs, by non-governmental organizations. There are schools there. People live there and try to get out when they can. There is no South Sudanese police there. There is no South because we don't want them there. It's United Nations territory. But there is no international criminal law against rape. I told you, we have some areas where we have international criminal law, but not in every case of a crime, a single crime, a murder or a rape, you have an international applicable law and the United Nations come to the rescue. No. It's the law of South Sudan, which cannot be prosecuted by United Nations police officers. But if you think about 200,000 people, then you quickly also say there is criminality. So we have crime, we have murder, we have rape, we have gang rapes in those camps. But we have no South Sudanese police coming in. And we can't prosecute these crimes because we don't want to enact the South Sudanese law. Neither we can because we are not South Sudanese police officers, nor do we want to because they also have capital punishment. So we have perpetrators of horrible crimes. Do we want to kick them out? Every human being, whether it's a murderer or a victim, has inalienable human rights. So kicking them out so that they are killed by their former brothers and sisters is not an option. Right? So what are we doing with them? We can't prosecute them. We can't let them walking around. We lock them up without any judicial process because we have no alternative. There are people in holding facilities that are sitting there since 2 years. And the South Sudanese don't want them and we can't get rid of them, but we cannot have them walking around because they are murderers and gang rapists. So we have community-oriented policing. Here I said, all women to the front, please. Men go back. I could do the same here. And we try to establish mediation mechanisms for minor crimes so that there is something like a community regulation. But for the serious crimes, we have no solution, so we lock them up. We have military peacekeepers protecting outside, and we have police peacekeepers protecting inside. And when in July, that fragile peace agreement between Salva Kiir, the president, and the first vice president, Riek Machar, he needed a close protection detail in order to come to Juba, back to Juba, roughly 700 soldiers, heavily armed. That was his little protection detail. So Juba was full with heavy weaponry. These guys tried to coexist until they shot at each other again. The situation blew up, and our police officers and our civilian personnel, our military personnel, was dealing with a frightened population inside those camps, whilst the grenades flew over us or impacted on our compounds. And we saw the SPLA and other uniformed personnel inside of our camps, outside of the camps, raping women, and couldn't do anything. In some cases, military peacekeepers didn't do anything whilst they should have. So we had a special investigation into the situation by a retired general, General Kamert, whom I know very well. He is also very well known to Romeo Dallaire. They work together. And I went to South Sudan after this special investigation happened because I wanted to see if our people are doing a good job or not. Because we are not there just for the nice times. We are there when it is also risky for us to be there. And I'm not saying that from a New York perspective, I'm saying that because I did it myself. In Kosovo, for example. And then you are there and you also risk your life for what you do. And if not, if you can't do it, please go home. This is just Haiti. It's just a few months earlier when I was there the last time, seeing where the development of the Haitian National Police and the criminal justice system is in Haiti. Criminal law justice students here, Haiti's population, prison population 2 years ago, of pre-trial detainees, 90%. Pre-trial detainees. Why? Either in the earthquake in 2010, all documents got destroyed, or the courts do not have capacity to prosecute these allegations. Why the hell are these people in jails for 2 years? Because the system is incapable, they should be let out. But we are developing a capable police, the justice is lagging behind, so we have people who are going to be arrested because the police is working now, but there is no justice system. And this here is a jail, a police jail. It's a holding cell with 15 people inside. Luckily, at least, they divide people into male and female, and they have them in different cells. But a holding facility in a police station is a group cell where you have 10 to 15 people. And then you have the judicial police coming in, and I took videos of that, how they did it, with their submachine guns and getting them out and bringing them to court. It's basic situations, even after 10 years in Haiti. But we will have this is the Central African Republic. How much time do I have left here? I'm good still, right? So this is the picture of the runway of the Central African Republic when I was there in late fall 2015 for the last time. And you just see it's a runway and you see a field and you see the jungle of the forest behind. 2 years earlier when I was touching down there, up to here, the place was crowded with refugees, displaced persons who ran away from violence in the Central African Republic, where First of all, at some point until 2012, the so-called ex-Seleka, Muslim part of the population in the Central African Republic, approached Bangui, the capital, overtoppled the government, put everything into the rubble, looted everything, and mistreated the population until the Catholic part of the population formed what is named the anti-Balaka. They formed their own retaliation against the ex-Seleka. Balaka is their word for machete, literally. And so they began to slaughter the others then. So you had two groups, Muslims and Christians, slaughtering each other. And we went there in 2013-14 in order to prevent a genocide from happening. Because we had very clear information about that. Just literally, they had container-wise brought machetes in. We have 5 minutes? Okay. Now, this is not a refugee camp. These are United Nations police officers living under the worst conditions you can imagine. It's incredible. So we go places others don't. Just to say that this is also still the Central African Republic because it documents the other side, looting and literally burning and taking away all criminal files, all police documentation. This was the former headquarters of the police. It's empty. Everything was taken away and burned. On the other side, when we then work, this is not light weapons and ammunitions. These are rocket-propelled grenades and mortars. These are landmines and whatever. So that's the Central African Republic in, I can't really give you an overview there if I only have 5 minutes to run through the other pictures. This is Rwanda. In Rwanda, we don't have a peacekeeping operation, but Rwanda is one of those cases where you will know that we had probably 800,000 ethnic Tutsi being killed in 1994. And that's Romeo Dallaire, as he is depicted in the Rwandan version of a Holocaust memorial. And that's me, and there are literally thousands and thousands of people, their remains underneath these glass windows. And as nice as that shows that the Inspector General of the Rwandese police is giving me a medal, the reason why I was there was pretty tough. And I like him and I like my Rwandese police colleagues. But we had a Rwandese foreign police unit in Gao in Mali, and for reasons that partly sit with that foreign police unit and partly with a rotten chain of command on top of them, in a situation where they handled a partly violent demonstration, they shot and intentionally killed people in that demonstration. And we had it on video. So we had parts of this foreign police unit having committed crimes and other parts of this foreign police unit not being able that I could work with them any longer. The Rwandese were pretty mad because Paul Kagame, the president, is very proud on peacekeeping because they also have their group conscience. So I went back and I told them face to face why I do believe that this foreign police unit needs to go home. And when I explained it, we were friends because they understood the reasons. And if we go through, well, let's go back here. Wait. Is it going back? No, I messed it up, right? Okay, I see. So can I go at the left one? No, I wanted to show you pictures from Somalia. Doesn't go back at least. Okay, there it is. No, that's Somalia. In Somalia, there's a war. Al-Shabaab is a terrorist organization, and the African Union has 21,000 soldiers there, and they fight a war against Al-Shabaab. And the African Union, under the command of my friend Anand Pillai, has police officers there, and we have United Nations police officers there, and we work together in trying to work on establishing a police, including women, that is capable to police the country if we were successful against Al-Shabaab. And the funny thing is, this is an airport in Kismayo. So you don't have an arrival gate and an arrival hall and a departure hall. You literally, and I took pictures, you have an arrival tree and you have a departure tree. So sometimes we are also funny, because otherwise we wouldn't really be able to do it. That is Mali. This is just some pictures of Mali. This is Timbuktu. Some of you will know Timbuktu because it is known for its cultural heritage. There's world heritage in Timbuktu, and it was almost destroyed by those Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, Akim guys, who were called by Tuaregs of the Azawad movement to help them in their fight against the Bamako government for independence, which they do frequently, but this time they called the wrong friends. So those friends took control and destroyed everything when they were forced out. But before that, they chopped hands and heads for applying the Sharia law. But you still have wonderful heritage and an incredible mosque inside where I took this picture. Absolutely stunning and incredible. In the middle of the desert. You come into that, you get rid of your shoes, you walk, there are carpets around, and there are small holes in the roof, and the sun is like a ray coming down. It's serene in the middle of the country. But the mandate of the United Nations mission there specifically also includes that we protect cultural heritage of the world. But MINUSMA, that mission in Mali, every week, on average, we lose a peacekeeper there. Because those terrorists target us. We have more than 150 casualties, killed people in that mission alone. They come, like in Afghanistan or Iraq, with suicide bombers, with IEDs, with vehicles that they bring, or they just plant landmines, whatever, and we lose police and military peacekeepers there. No. Maybe that's it, I don't know. No, oh, that way.
Still not working?
Oh, there it is. This is Darfur, which is a part of Sudan, and you will have perhaps heard of Darfur because there were quite some celebrities here in America who made a case for the Darfurian people who were subjected to violence, to rape, to killings, the women especially, by Arab militias. Because the Darfuris fought a fight against their government for their own rights, and the government in Khartoum used Arab militias in order to fight them. And they don't fight soldiers, they just kill population. Since then, Darfur is a place with refugee camps without end, and in how many? In 10 refugee camps, I have one from police unit each. The biggest mission with the largest number of police officers that I have is in Darfur. We hardly can do capacity building. We protect people in those camps. We protect women on the way to water holes, because otherwise they are going to be raped and killed. And let me tell you that story quickly. If you come into that camp, this one is in El Geneina, I think, or you come to Abu Shuk in El Fasher, and you get out of your vehicle, you are surrounded by hundreds of little children who come. Like a crowd, they stand around you, like a sea. And then the closest ones will just come and just touch your hand. Just almost you don't feel it. They just touch your hand, just a little bit. And all of them yell at you, okay, okay, okay. You, from hundreds of children, you will hear only one word, okay, 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 okay. And you think that's nice, right? They say, okay, hi, okay. They have been trained by humanitarian organizations to use the only universally word that works in almost every language to diffuse a possibly violent situation by saying, okay, 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 please don't do harm to me. That's why they say okay, because otherwise they are going to be killed. That, when you come back from there, and then you hear people talking about those migrants. Stop. Is it the last one? No, this is still South Sudan. These are pictures from, this is a refugee camp, right? Look at that. It's a refugee camp. This is the Democratic Republic of Congo. A place of worry for me because we were training the Police Nationale Congolaise. Well, Mr. Kabila is the president. He kind of would like to have a third term, whilst the constitution doesn't allow that. So like every proper African president, you think you have this job lifetime-wise, right? So you just change the constitution. This is what happened in Burundi. People didn't like it, so they went on the streets, and so then the government started to harass, to kill, or to rape, and to torture, or to forcibly abduct their own population. In Congo, in the run-up of elections that are now, and where we hope that we can kind of get it done without violence, you had situations over the last months where the Police Nationale Congolaise, you get a report in the morning where you said there was a peaceful demonstration in the town A&A. The Police Nationale Congolaise engaged. After a peaceful demonstration, after they ran out of tear gas, they used live ammunition, shooting into the population. The population wasn't very happy about that, and the result was that the police station and the hospital were scorched, destroyed, set on fire, and there were several casualties. So you have training efforts for police organizations, and then all of a sudden you have to think about, can you do that any longer? I had Burundian police officers in those 14,000, and the Burundian foreign police units in the Central African Republic were excellent. I have Burundian police officers in my standing police capacity. They are really, really trained, but they're handpicked, and we know exactly that these people have not participated in crimes in their own country. But when it came to the turnover that those foreign police units in the Central African Republic needed to be replaced by new ones, we were literally facing the situation that those new 260 police officers might be police officers who had forcibly abducted, tortured, killed, and raped their own population. So we said, no, you're out, which didn't go down well in Burundi. They were pretty mad at us and mad at me and my boss, and I'm eternally grateful that my boss, who is having a political function, stood his ground and said, not with me. Unless we have a different situation, you will not be part of this United Nations police any longer. The flip side of it is they are so mad with us that they don't like us there any longer. So whilst the Security Council would like to have our police officers in Burundi, because there are violations of human rights, the Burundians say no, because you don't let us being part of the peacekeepers any longer, so we don't want you either. So we are stuck. And I think that's it. This is the Palestine territories, just for completion. This is Afghanistan, just saying, what is this? That's a police station. Because who are those? Can't you see it? They have handcuffs. They're police officers. Just the sheer magnitude of the task if you're being in areas like that. I don't even start to talk about Afghanistan or Iraq, for that matter. This is Basra. No, this is Baghdad. This is a kill zone. Stop at entry point. Proceed. Do not proceed until told to do so. Deadly force authorized. And that's the protective gear when we were traveling there. With that, you can essentially fight a small war, but trying to establish capacity for policing under situations where it's lethally dangerous. And that is Kosovo, just to complete, where I took those pictures in 2001. That one here, and that one here in 2004. That is a hand when, in 2001, a bus with Serbian minority members, refugees coming back from Nice, were crossing the boundary to Kosovo, where there was waiting 160 kilograms of TNT in a culvert, and it was exploded, and this is what was left from that bus with Serbs, Kosovo Serbs coming back, in order to make sure that they don't come back. Or this is just the scene of leftovers. These were children in Gorastevac in 2003, playing in the river, swimming, because their Kosovo Albanian friends or whatever in that Pečpea minority area of Serbs, they could go into the swimming pool. They, because they were part of the Serbian enclave, couldn't, so they swam in the river. And then from the other side, out of the bush, unidentified gunmen, until today, not identified, came, opened fire, and killed these children. This is how you prevent returnees coming back. It takes sometimes only a snap to inflict and to instill violence in a society. But once that has happened, to get that back into the status quo ante, the status before, it's almost impossible. How do you reconcile? I think I'll stop here. And this is Bosnia. Oh yeah, Srebrenica. Until today, every year, there's a commemoration of the Srebrenica genocide. 8,000 who were in a United Nations camp. And Ratko Mladic, the general, the Bosnian general, demanded from the Dutch camp commander that these people should, and let them out. We will take care of them. Yeah, they took care of them. They killed them. So until today, we still have ongoing DNA identification of remains of exhumations from mass graves. And what is left then and identified in one ceremony every July, people will come to Srebrenica. Newly identified victims will be buried. And you have all the world coming, including the diaspora from the United States, and they will all cry together. And still until today, it is difficult to get any Bosnian Serb or Serb from Belgrade over there. That was 1993 or 1994. Okay, that was it. So this is the list of links that I put together for this presentation. So whoever is interested can just click on those.
You can send that to me. Yeah. And there's quite a few questions.
And we have time. I have time for you guys. Completely open.
Due to the sensitivity of handling or preventing these cases, have you ever personally been in a situation where you were legally restricted to act upon a case, whereas you would have acted upon otherwise?
There were cases where I was restricted to act and where I, however, acted. And I will not talk about that. Or yes, I will, because there are areas where you only can do what is in your conscience. And sometimes it is that then the Security Council is having the power also to legitimize it.
How do you feel about morally about this? About the political correctness of acting upon or not?
You do not have a universal ethical code. You do not have a universal morality. You always have diversity. You have, at the bottom of everything, the Charter of the United Nations and the International Declaration of Human Rights. That's what all adhere to. So from there, you need to accept that the world is full of diversity. So you can have a plethora of different police organizations structured differently, and you would want, this is what we do, you would want them to adhere to commonly defined standards. And that is what we do. I have not told you about that, what we are doing in this regard. We name it the Strategic Guidance Framework. It is the attempt to find a common ground. But you will always have in this world, as long as, I don't know, a miracle happens, you will have violence, you will have war, you will have conflict. But if you have war, then there are also provisions for how you treat the civilian population, because war is between combatants. Modern contemporary war is not that any longer. You know about asymmetric warfare. And modern war gives a damn about the provisions to protect civilians. That is why we then are there. And then we are in situations, as I have explained, in South Sudan or in Abyei or whatever, where there is no case and reference model. We are confronted with a situation which is completely new. And we have to invent how we deal with that. We have no blueprint for situations like these.
Because we're a student population here, what advice would you give our students who, you're saying all these things and you're saying, we have to care. Where can they go from there?
Be politically aware. Take care of the political context in your environment where you are. Be active. Strive for values. Discuss values. Stand up for values. And think about what you want to do. Because not everybody has to end up in a big situation or in a unique situation like I have. That might be only one police advisor to the United Nations. But that doesn't mean that anything else would be less important. Everything matters, and there is no big without the small, and there is no small without the big. So take responsibility and stand up for values. That's what I would say. And whatever you then want to do and however you want to do, there is a universe out there. There's a universe out there. But stand up for values. That's why we stand here. Never again In March 2004, we had 3 days of violence in Kosovo. We were just shattered. I had literally, together with my military colleagues, prevented an ethnic cleansing from happening. They wanted to finally get the Serbs out. And we had 3 days and nights of violence. And everything that happened was collateral damage because I knew what was going on. After we had dealt with the situation, 1 week later, as shattered and demoralized as we were celebrating the United Nations Day of the commemoration of the Rwandese genocide. So we sat in that town hall in Pristina, and Chuck Brayshaw, my friend, the principal deputy of the special representative, he went to the podium, he stood there, I will not forget that. He's 75 years old he was at that, and he just started with Never Again, because we were watching that movie with Romeo Dallaire, Never Again, and then he couldn't speak any longer, and he just started to cry. And I went to him and I said, yes, Chuck, never again. Well, whether we could prevent from happening, but say no. And stand up for it.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Let's just give one more round of applause for Stefan. I don't think when our team planned his visit today, we knew how important and how much we would need his words and his guidance at this time in our lives and in our society. It's very inspiring, and I thank you all for coming. Please leave your evaluations in the back and pick up one of these programs for the rest of the lectures in the spring semester. Thank you all so much.
It's a lot of fun. Thank you.